Hey everyone, how are we doing today? Yesterday we of course got a Spider-Man reveal trailer for the new Spider-Man game that's coming out towards the latter half of this year, so I figured we'd talk about some stuff about it. Why not? In the trailer, Miles fights about 4 different people, or does some cool moves on like 4 different people. And that enemy slowly starts to reveal like a weapon, or slowly forms a weapon. Yeah, we don't have any confirmation as to who any of these villains necessarily are, or how many of them are just goons, but there are a bunch of different villains that this could potentially be. So first off, it could potentially be the Stunner, who was in the original Earth 616 continuity, a former video store clerk that falls in love with Otto Octavius, or Doc Ock. Otto eventually makes a device that lets the Stunner go into a virtual reality sort of place and make her new and improved Stunner body that's more beautiful and much stronger than her normal body. When Otto is killed by Kane, a clone of Peter Parker, she tries to revive him with her virtual body, but an explosion that she suffers while she's in her Stunner body puts her real body into a coma. When she wakes up and finds out that Otto is actually dead, she swears vengeance against Spider-Man, who is actually Otto Octavius in Spider-Man's body. To draw Otto out, she decides to cause a bunch of destruction and mayhem in the city until Spider-Man reveals himself, and then the two do a bit of battle, but Otto pretty much subdues her with her the webs that he's improved, and then tells his spider bots to shut off the VR machine. Now, eventually the spider bots do this, although it's a bit later, and when Otto properly breaks up with her, she essentially breaks down crying, and that's about that. So yeah, she's not really a major villain by any sense, but as she's not really been played around with that much, could be a nice opportunity, especially because the first Spider-Man game came out 2018, supposed to be like the first in a series of a bunch of games that sort of making a game-verse, as it were. This whole universe, kind of similar to the MCU. So yeah. And of course, as her powers are like linked to VR and all of that sort of stuff, having like a constructed weapon like that and fighting with that seems all that possible. Failing that, there's an enemy that's most likely going to be more of a goon, but still could potentially be a more named villain, and she has like these larger gauntlet or larger hand style weapons, and the Stunner was known to fight with like spiked gauntlets, so that's a thing. Especially when you consider that Miles didn't take down Octavius, it was Peter, and that she could easily confuse the two and have that plotline happen, if that could be a cool callback to her original sort of storyline and what was going on there. So there's that. There's also Delilah, who's a skilled assassin who works for the Rose, and she's trained in hand-to-hand combat and can use a bunch of different firearms and bladed weapons. Now, sure, this weapon looks like it's being specially revealed or magically summoned or whatever, but I'm still going to put it out there purely just as a possibility. And then, as we said, is the intention behind the first game, and by extension this game and any games that come out after it are, to be connected in sort of this like Gameverse style universe. We have Psylocke, who was a mutant in the X-Men series that could create psychic blades, and well, hey, this seemed like it could fit that bill, so there you go. As for who the probably other like more significant villain character in the red sort of armor, so part of me wants to say that it's a villain like Overdrive, who you've probably never heard of, and I haven't heard of before I decided to look up a bunch of villains and find out a bunch. But this villain is specifically related to vehicles, and their powers revolve around vehicles. Essentially, if they touch a vehicle, their nanites can help them change an aspect of it, so they can increase a vehicle's speed or durability, say, or change the design entirely. And if Overdrive is away from a vehicle that they've manipulated for too long and too far away, then it will just revert back to its original capabilities or form. Now, if you are going to disable an enemy like that, it would be pretty smart to keep them away from vehicles, and i.e. really up high, and it looks like that's what Spider-Man's doing here. But also, it's just much more likely that this just isn't Overdrive. But then again, we do have like biker sort of, or like, vehicle driver type helmet that he's got going on. And well, a villain suit. I don't really have much else to go off of other than that. So yeah, that's my guess. But there are, of course, other characters that are more significant to Miles. Of course, you have the Prowler, who's in fact Aaron Davis, and his uncle. And he tends to be quite a major villain for Miles Morales, especially because Miles tends to fight a lot of Peter Parker or Spider-Man's normal villains. He doesn't necessarily have many major villains of his own, so it makes sense to include the Prowler or characters like that to act as sort of like a major villain for Miles. And then of course there's Yuri Watanabe, which, the last time we saw her in the game, Yuri's left us the dead body of an enforcer tied to a pipe, and when Spider-Man tells her to turn herself in and that what she's doing is wrong, she essentially says, well, you're gonna do what you're gonna do, and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and stuff will happen. So in the comics, she actually becomes Wraith, and she uses a bunch of different gear and equipment of other villains like Chameleon and Mysterio to fight crime. And she could very well be a villain of this game as well. But yeah, that's more or less everything I have for you from the trailer. What do you think? Are you excited for the new Spider-Man game? And who do you think these new sort of characters and villains potentially are? Be interested to know your thoughts in the comment section below, of course. And if you feel like the video deserves it, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. But till then, have yourselves a fantastic day. And I've been Brian. Bye bye.